Iran asserts that nobody had the right to dictate its agenda on the Syrian people, who are alone responsible for their future. Terrorists admit to receiving money and weapons from foreign states to carry out crimes of sabotage to destabilize Syria. Nicolás Maduro won the presidential elections in Venezuela. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. That do not harm Russia's interests or the interests of its population. Yet, he is very firm in preserving the red lines representing Russia's national interests. These interests cannot be given up or abandoned in any issue. The spokesman of the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Mr. Rami Mahmoudparast, asserted that nobody has the right to dictate his agenda on the Syrian people. The Syrian people are responsible for determining their own destiny and political future. The terrorists cannot prove their legitimacy through their crimes against the Syrian people and government. The Iranian official expressed Iran's rejection of controlling any state or system by any foreign party through violence and foreign support. He asserted that only the people can give legitimacy to the government. The Ministerial Committee assigned to follow up the implementation of the political program to solve the crisis in Syria, chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Wael al-Halaqi, met citizens of the Barada Valley in the Damascus countryside. The committee appreciated the conviction of the notables in the area that the solution in Syria would come only through love, dialogue, rejection of grudge and violence. Carrying weapons would only lead to deterioration. The Prime Minister expressed happiness to meet these citizens who believe that the way of love and toleration remained the only hope for the Syrian people. He asserted that this noble attitude is not strange to the customs of our people. It symbolizes the noble history and culture of Syria and its loyal citizens. The notables expressed their gratitude for the government's sincere call for dialogue and preparing the necessary administrative and judicial steps to contribute to its success and credibility. They pointed out the importance of dealing with the situation of the detained citizens and the victims of abduction. They expressed appreciation of the government's efforts to improve the economic situation and living conditions in the country. In the Latakia countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units targeted gatherings and hideouts of terrorists in several villages, killing and wounding many of them, in addition to the destruction of their vehicles carrying terrorists, weapons and ammunition. An official source said the Syrian Arab Army units stormed the hideouts of the terrorists of the so-called Jabhat al-Nusra in the village of al-Mraj in the Kansaba area. This led to the death of the Qatari terrorist Mazen al-Miftahi, his Indonesian assistant Abi Laith and the Filipino Abi Omar. 18 vehicles, including 6 armored cars, were also destroyed. In Homs countryside, units of the Syrian Arab Army pounded groups of terrorists, killing many of them and injuring several others. In a specific operation carried out in Tel Dahab and Kifrlaha in Al-Hula district of Homs countryside, Syrian Arab Army units destroyed 3 vehicles. 2 of them were carrying heavy machine guns and the third was equipped with a mortar gun. Many terrorists were killed in the operation, including Muhammad al-Hamad, who is Lebanese. A military source said that Syrian Arab Army units blocked an attack by terrorist armed groups at a security checkpoint near Tal al-Nabi Mando in Al-Aqsar countryside, killing many terrorists, including some leaders of the so-called Al-Farouq brigades. The source added that during the military operations, many terrorist hideouts near the castle in al-Rastan were destroyed, killing many terrorists and injuring others. Syrian Arab Army units also killed many terrorists near the town of al-Ghajar in al-Rastan countryside. Units of the Syrian Arab Army carried out qualitative operations against terrorist groups in several areas in the Idlib countryside, inflicting heavy losses on them. Many terrorists were killed and wounded in several villages. The Syrian Arab Army units destroyed terrorist hideouts with all their weapons and equipment in many other villages. The Syrian Arab Army units inflicted heavy losses among terrorists who committed crimes of murder and looting in several other villages. A number of terrorist leaders and the so-called military councils and brigades admitted receiving money and weapons from foreign states in order to commit crimes against security in order to destabilize Syria.
New facts are being exposed day after day about events in Syria. These are terrorist crimes committed in obedience of American orders at the hands of the boys of the oil chiefdoms in order to destroy Syria. They committed acts of looting, theft and destruction of property. TV channels involved in bloodshed in Syria, particularly Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya, played major roles in fabricating false reports in order to carry out the foreign agenda assigned to them. The terrorist leaders admitted that several members of the so-called Istanbul Council ordered them to establish coordinations and pages on the Facebook under different military names and gave them money from the Gulf states, particularly Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, under the command of the so-called Free Army. They committed that most members of the armed terrorist groups of mercenaries do not fight without pay. Some terrorists plundered and stole things, divided them and sold them in Turkish markets, with the knowledge of the Turkish government and its security forces. However, history will register that Syrian Arab Army exerted heroic efforts in defending its homeland.
Venezuelan Election Commission announced the victory of acting President Nicolás Maduro in yesterday's presidential election. Maduro won by 50.76% of the votes, allowing him to carry on with the socialist policies of late President Hugo Chavez. The Election Commission added that the opposition candidate Enrique Capriles garnered 49% of the votes. Maduro called his supporters for peace and calm, announcing that he trusted the Venezuelans and he welcomed an audit to the election results. One may imagine that translation from one language into another is easy. However, it is difficult to formulate the idea to make it acceptable and understood by several people.
This process requires effort and time. Each people have their own peculiarities which require the translator to have prior knowledge of addressing them in order to allow the acceptance of the presented ideas. The Ministry of Culture believes that the cultural legacy is the real bridge among various people and civilization. Today, the National Syrian Museum witnessed the start of the activities of the National Committee of Translation.
The main goal of the National Translation Plan that we've just launched today is to build an epistemic set of books that are translated from different languages into Arabic and to provide them to the Syrian reader so that our reader is capable to see a window to the world and to understand the international horizons of globalization, a globalization that is not built on hegemony but built on complementarity.
This committee would translate the important Arabic books and historical events into several foreign languages. The translators would also translate cultural books and foreign legends into Arabic and introduce it to the Syrian and Arab reading public to acquaint them with the cultures of their nations. The cultural and information deception prevailing today spread positions, ideas about the nature of the Arab community in general and the Syrian community in particular, describing them as closed and only interested in internal conflicts. Undoubtedly, this is a completely wrong idea.
State Minister for the Environmental Affairs Dr. Nazira Sarkis discussed with the UN representative of Food and Agriculture Organization FAO in Damascus, Eriko Hebe, prospects of environmental cooperation and ways of boosting them in the emergency and development projects. State Minister Sarkis reviewed the projects carried out by the ministry in cooperation with FAO in the fields of renewable energy and disposal of dangerous waste. Sarkis also asserted the necessity of boosting cooperation with FAO, especially in the field of the emergency projects that relate to environment as a result of the current circumstances in Syria. In turn, Mr. Hibi praised the distinguished relations between the ministry and FAO, especially concerning the development projects. Both sides agreed on holding regular meetings by the technical committees according to the needs, posing the priority for the emergency projects. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now over to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Sources emphasized that the Central Bank of Syria continues its interventional procedures in the market of exchanging foreign currencies in order to control the high exchanging prices. The sources added that manipulators in the illegal market participate in raising the prices of exchanging the foreign currencies to achieve gains, ignoring the daily needs of the citizens and the national economy, whereas supplies of the foreign exchange in Syria are great. According to the same sources, the price of exchanging the Syrian pound against the US dollar is stabilized, so rumors and fabricated news about the exchange prices enter the context of the war against Syria in all sectors, including the financial sector, after falling in achieving a military victory. About 23 were the import licenses granted by Hama branch of the Syrian Investment Committee during the first quarter of the current year. These licenses included importing raw materials for oil and food industries. The manager of the branch said that the branch modified 8 of the decisions specialized in transporting the industrial, agricultural materials and fuel, in addition to modifying the decision of regarding an industrial project and approving another industrial one, as the committee seeks to enhance the investment environment in the country. In China, the fiscal revenue rose by 6.9% in the first quarter of the current year. The Finance Ministry of China declared that the fiscal revenues increased during this first quarter compared to 3.2 trillion yuan last year. Brent futures fell more than $2, reaching $101 per barrel, after one Chinese and American data raised investors' concerns regarding the declaration of the economic growth within the biggest consumers of the oil in the world. European stocks retreated, led by mining companies, after economic data less than the expectation from China showed that the largest consumer of metals in the world, which raised doubts regarding the recovery of the global economy. In Tokyo, the Nikkei index retreated from its highest level in 5 years, within the exporting stocks decline after weaknesses in the retail sales in the US that raised concerns about the recovery of the world's largest economy. The chairman of the Jewelers Association declared that the demand for gold is increasing for saving purposes due to the low prices of the craft. He also stressed on the importance of stamping all golden products available in the market with the stamp of the association to ensure its compliance with the standards set by the association. He added that the instability of the gold prices is a result of the instability of its prices globally, which is also linked to the dollar. The gold prices decreased 150 Syrian pounds last week. The Jewelers Association set the price of the 21-carat gold at 4,850 Syrian pounds. The yen rose against the US dollar and the euro, supported by a report from the US Treasury, which said that the Japanese policies might be monitored to make sure that they are not decreasing the yen's rate for gaining some competitive advantages. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.